Hi and welcome back, guys, to another thoughtful gaming Wizardry 8 guide on character building, this time for a rogue. Rogue is possibly one of the most basic classes in any RPG, and Wizardry 8, it's just the same. You can take a rogue and it's pretty clear what the group role will be. It will be locks and traps, which is one of the special skills, getting a 25% bonus on the locks and traps skill. So if you take a rogue in any case, let her or him take locks and traps because he's just the best, or she's just the best at locks and traps. Also, a rogue is a very good melee combatant who has backstabbing, like automatically backstabs in melee combat against opponents that can be backstabbed, and does pretty good damage, and is also perfectly capable to tank if you go into vitality sometimes, and even if not, it's a pretty good tank. So so that's about the group role of the rogue. What attributes should you go for? You can see here the primary attributes that the game says are the primary attributes. Dexterity, speed, and senses. I would absolutely add strength to that. And later on, vitality. And I would postpone senses until you have like dexterity, speed, and strength at 100. Then you can go for senses, then you can go for vitality. So what races should you take? As the rogue levels like quickest of all the classes, or is in the quickest group of leveling of the classes in Wizardry 8, you have a pretty broad choice for a good rogue. But the best choices are probably the Hobbit with his 60 bonus points and pretty good values in the primary attributes, also a passable vitality, an okay intelligence, and a really okay strength. And the other is the Felper, who has quite high speed, and strength is still okay, vitality is a little low, but that's okay for a rogue, and at least with that pool of 55 bonus points. I would mostly prefer a Hobbit because, like, the Hobbit is just, from the bonus points, the best rogue there is. And what attributes should you go for? Like, if you want a tanky melee character as your rogue, you should go for first strength, then dexterity, speed, and vitality, and then senses. If you want a melee and DPS rogue, then go for first dexterity, strength, after that, and then speed, senses, and last thing would be vitality then. We are going for a melee and DPS rogue, which is perfectly viable also for a little bit of tanking. In the case of the Hobbit, this means putting 20 points into strength, putting 20 points into dexterity, and we're putting 20 points into speed. And the first things we will max out are strength and dexterity. After that, speed, senses, and then vitality. We'll go for a female rogue here, because at the start there are very good stamina regeneration items for females only. And the rogue has quite some attacks and often dual wields, so you will need much stamina. Stamina is used for your melee attacks as a rogue. So what skills should you go for? I already mentioned locks and traps. If you take a rogue, take locks and traps. It's just as simple as that. So you will have 2 maximum skills available in addition to that, and what should you go for there? It has a lot to do with your weapon choice, of course. as here are the weapon skills, and dagger has already 8 points. So dagger would be a good choice. You can go for dual wielding daggers, you can go for sword and dagger dual wielding, you can go for sword and shield, or you can go for dagger and shield. That would all be good choices. But I would probably prefer sword and dagger, which is, yeah, it's a little bit slow maybe at the start, because you cannot, you don't have that many points to raise all of that. You should raise it like in a balanced way, so that sword, dagger and dual weapons are about the same. And yeah, the rogue levels very quickly, as I already said, so you will be quite a good melee combatant, and later a great one, because their swords are the best weapons in the game, and daggers are okay, but nowhere near swords. Close combat is also a skill that will help you in your combat, but it will raise on its own, or it will have to raise. It's the most unspecific one. In that case, you could take it if you wanted to go like shield, sword, and then close combat. That would be okay, but in this case, I would be going for sword, dagger, and dual weapons. These three balanced, and always max locks and traps. You have stealth, which means you can block many attacks. You have a slightly higher armor class, and you are invisible in hand-to-hand combat. But you're not going to do hand-to-hand combat with a rogue, right? You don't even have the skill for that. Well, that was weapon choice, like sword and dagger, and in your offhand you should really not go for the throwing and sling, even if that seems cool for a rogue, like throwing daggers or something like that, but that's not that effective later, so you should really go for a bow then, but you shouldn't put points into that. So, yeah. So, now we have a pretty good rogue. In that case, a female hobbit rogue. And we can review it now. As you see, you're already dual wielding daggers, which is okay, but you should replace them as quickly as possible. Maybe an enchanted broadsword in the primary hand, in that case of skilling, and like a standard dagger or a main gauge in the offhand, if you find that, or if you can buy that. And now you have that rogue, and you have this roster here, yeah? So where should you place your rogue? You should first get all the other slots full, and the rogue can be in the last place, really, because the rogue won't buff anything, the rogue won't cast any spells, which would be important at the start of the round or before taking any attacks. The rogue needs all the buffs done before he or she attacks, because that's preferable. Yeah, like if you would cast a bless here after moving, then you would already have the bless, and then the rogue can attack with a bless bonus. When you have the rogue at the starter slot instead, and you move and then start the round, then your bless would be cast here, but the rogue would attack before the bless, which is not good. So put your rogues and like others that would not cast or use items heavily in the back rows, like in the last slots. These are the perfect positions for them, and for the rogue too. Your position in the crosshair, and the tactical crosshair you will see later, is probably a flank, because of the stealth and pretty good hit points. Not nowhere near the fighter or the Valkyrie, of course, but a rogue is pretty tough and can take really some hits and will be okay because of stealth and, as I said, okay hit points. So place the rogue in the front line or in the flanks, and you will have much fun with your rogue. So this was the Rogue Guide. I hope you had fun listening and watching, and I hope you have fun with your new rogue in your party. Remember, you can take any race you want as long as you keep to the attribute increasing. So you can go for fun if you want that, but on expert I would absolutely recommend a hobbit or a felper if you go for the melee DPS rogue. So have fun playing Wizardry 8 with your new rogue. See you. This is Immanuel Can signing out, wishing you happy gaming.